Good evening and thank you for joining us. No arrests have been made in connection to last Friday's homicide on McMillan Street, but Thunder Bay police have now confirmed that the victim was a 37-year-old local man and that a firearm was used in the killing. Police still aren't ready to name the victim as consultation with the family continues. Officers with the primary response unit were originally dispatched to the 800 block of McMillan for a weapons call just before 2:30 in the afternoon where they discovered the body. Detective Inspector Jeremy Pearson urges anyone with information to come forward, regardless of how small a detail it may be.
And we ask that anyone who has seen something that seemed out of place, regardless of how small, it may be important to our investigators and to the investigation. So anyone who saw something, who has residential surveillance video and has not yet been spoken to by police, although we have canvassed the area extensively, we're looking at anything out of the ordinary in the morning to early afternoon hours of the 29th.
Pearson also reminds people not to spread online rumors and that information should be brought straight to the police so they can look into and verify it. A 42-year-old local man has been arrested in connection to an unprovoked random attack on an elderly woman at Hillcrest Park yesterday evening. It happened just after 8 o'clock. City police say the man ran into the victim, pushed her to the ground, and assaulted her. The accused was arrested without further incident. The woman did sustain unknown injuries. She declined EMS assistance but was taken to hospital by a friend for treatment. The accused has been remanded into custody. It's not ideal, but they currently have nowhere else to go. A number of homeless people have gathered in a north side neighborhood near McVicar Creek. Some area homeowners have expressed concerns about the encampment, but a community organization trying to find more permanent housing for those who've set up there says that takes time. Vasilios Bellos has the story.
It's not much, but for this woman, identified only as Sarah, it's home for now.
If we just put up a tent somewhere, like we're tough or strong, like we'll start actually saving money again. So that's what we did.
It's difficult to say exactly how many homeless people are staying along McVicar Creek at a given time, as most move around the city. Sarah is currently living in a tent with her partner after they lost custody of their son. The couple moved to Thunder Bay from Nipigon to try and get their son back, but ran out of money after spending many nights in hotel rooms. Sarah says the visibility of this spot is what helps make it safe, but she understands the concern of neighborhood residents.
I feel bad for the people who are living in these places because they're paying to live here. This is a beautiful apartment, that's a beautiful apartment. It's embarrassing, and I feel bad that I'm in their space, but I don't know what else to do or where to go because I can't go. There's so many places to go, but it's not safe everywhere, you know?
Workers from Elevate NWO visited the site frequently, bringing essential supplies like groceries and hygiene products and trying to find people housing. It's no easy task, though, says Executive Director Holly Govan.
June, we were able to move 8 people who were camped out in various parts of the park and get them rehoused. It took about 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. So unfortunately, our systems can only move so fast.
Some residents living near McVicar Creek have voiced concerns to our newsroom about the people staying in the area, citing substance abuse and litter, among other issues. They were unwilling to speak on camera, but at least one woman says she called police and city bylaw officers, hoping they'd be removed. Acting Police Chief Dan Taddeo, however, while not specifically addressing this encampment, says that's not their strategy when it comes to dealing with the homeless.
That is something that I think we've been fairly successful at identifying how to assist these people and not necessarily what I guess could be described as clearing them out. No, we are looking at good options for these people.
It's stressful still, but there's no stress. Like, it's not like, oh, we gotta leave, and where are we gonna go, And it's the scariest feeling ever, not knowing where you're gonna sleep.
Taddeo adds support for those living in poverty, not enforcement, is key to tackling the problem. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
An important step for the proposed Thunder Bay Science Center. Science North has chosen the Pool 6 site as its preferred location for the facility. The organization will still have to work with the city to approve the site and the terms of use. The design of the center is still being developed, but Science North plans for a 34,000 square foot center that's meant to appeal to people of all ages. Senior scientist Emily Curtin says it's an exciting moment and explains the criteria they looked at before deciding on Pool 6.
From accessibility to available parking spaces, green spaces nearby, other potential partners that we would have within the area. And out of that list, we narrowed it down and finally came out with Pool 6 as the preferred site.
Create a year-round, sustainable, and diverse visitor attraction, and it's something for locals, but it also has the ability to bring in school groups from the region. It's something that would be of interest for our cruise shipping passengers, for group travel.
Once completed, the Science Center is expected to welcome 80,000 visitors and generate about 5,000 overnight stays in Thunder Bay a year. There's also a projected $6 million annual economic impact for the city. 2 more people have filed their nomination papers vying for a spot on Thunder Bay City Council. Matthew Viella, who currently chairs the city's Sister Cities Advisory Committee, is now seeking one of the 5 at-large seats. There are now 10 candidates in that race. And David Tomasini is now the 3rd candidate to file in the West Fort ward. Frontline workers are calling for action from the Ford government to address the healthcare staffing crisis across the province. They say Ontario could be at risk of a complete collapse. Scott Lightfoot reports.
Work has been a very difficult place to be these past few years.
They are stories from the front lines of healthcare, nurses who have reached their breaking point and are considering leaving their profession.
I would be lying if I said it hadn't crossed my mind more than once, which is a devastating thing to me personally to even say out loud.
Today, several of the unions that represent healthcare workers in this province joined together to call for the government to take 5 steps to stem the staffing crisis.
Right now, ERs are closing and ICUs and other units are cutting beds. I call it the silent closures because our communities have no idea what is really happening within those walls.
Healthcare unions are asking the province to fully fund Ontario's hospitals, saying they've been underfunded for many years by several different governments. They're asking for additional supports for staff, like mental health support, access to childcare, and making hospitals safer. They want the government to repeal Bill 124, which limits wage increases to 1%, and they want financial incentives to discourage retirement and encourage retention. They're also asking the government to significantly increase post-secondary spaces for all types of healthcare professionals.
With more hospitals potentially closing units, ICUs, and emergency departments, the government still has no real comprehensive plan to staff up our hospitals, and this is completely unacceptable.
But a spokesperson for Ontario's Minister of Health says the province has already launched the largest recruitment and training campaign in Ontario's history. The government says it's added 10,500 healthcare workers, including nurses and PSWs. They say they've already provided a $5,000 retention bonus, equal, they say, to a 7.6% increase on the average. Yesterday, the minister instructed the colleges of nurses and physicians and surgeons to come up with a plan to expedite registering foreign-educated workers, and the government says they've invested more than $12 million in mental health and addiction supports. As the province and the unions try to find a solution to the staffing shortage, staff are left trying to figure out how much longer they can keep going.
It's very devastating to myself 14 years in to not necessarily see a future for myself at the bedside.
That was CTV's Scott Lightfoot reporting. So as the healthcare crisis makes headlines across the province, the Thunder Bay Health Coalition is also weighing in, calling on the Ford government to increase spending and hire more nurses. Nurses here, like many across the province, are struggling to keep up with their workload, leading some to consider leaving the field. That's according to Health Coalition co-chair Jules Tupker. He says while the wage cap is a huge factor, the biggest problem is working conditions and patient load.
People are not going into the nursing field because they're hearing stories about how brutal it is, and they're saying, I don't want to go there. You can give me $500 an hour, I don't care. I'm not going there because I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do.
Tupker says the issue leads directly to the violence faced by nurses as patients get angry with delays while nurses are occupied caring for others. The Transportation Safety Board has released some damning findings regarding the 2019 crash of a North Star Air DC-3 aircraft near Sachigo Lake. The cargo plane crashed after several attempted landings in cloudy conditions. The TSB didn't mince words, saying North Star's pilots had a, quote, distorted perception of risk and a results-orientated subculture that contributed to the crash. Nobody was injured in the incident. In a statement, North Star Air says it's taken actions to improve procedures for the operation of that type of aircraft and has also made personnel changes to improve safety and oversight. The Mattawa Chiefs Council is making a strong statement of autonomy. During last week's AGM, the council passed several resolutions formally rejecting processes they say will encroach on the Mattawa homelands and resolving to develop a First Nations-driven mining process. Lee Noonan has more.
Representatives of the 9 Mattawa First Nations gathered in Webequie First Nation for the first in-person AGM since the pandemic. They voted to reject a trio of third-party processes, saying the organizations must respect proper protocols and the autonomy of communities. Martin Falls First Nation Chief Bruce Atchinipaneshkum explains.
Governments have to talk to us when it comes to development on our lands, first and foremost, rather than any other organization that says they represent us.
The rejected processes include a proposed treaty relationship discussion between Anishinaabe Nation and Canada, a federal benefit sharing framework process, and economic development and prosperity tables proposed by Chiefs of Ontario and the Assembly of First Nations. None of those organizations were able to provide comment before broadcast.
While we're part of NAN and Chiefs of Ontario, those are our organizations. But when it comes to the land and the land issues, the government should speak with the treaty rights holders, the signers of the treaty, and that's the First Nations.
The council also voted to work with NAN and Chiefs of Ontario to develop a First Nations-driven approach to mining development in the province. Atchinipaneshkum says he ultimately wants to see a self-government agreement akin to the one established in eastern James Bay.
First and foremost, we're asserting our jurisdiction on our lands, much like the First Nations did in Quebec. With the large projects that happened, the hydroelectric projects.
Previously, Mattawa communities had been negotiating mining development in the Ring of Fire through a regional framework agreement, but that was dissolved by the Ford government early in their first term. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The North Shore Dog Club is holding its second annual dog show this weekend at Chippewa Park. More than 100 dogs from across northwestern Ontario and even south of the border gathered to compete. Riley McManus was there.
Following the success of last year's competition, even at the height of the pandemic, the North Shore Dog Club show is back at Chippewa Park. Sandy Wright and her first place winning golden retriever are no stranger to competitions. 7-year-old Bodie has been in the ring since he was a puppy.
It's been quite a while, and I love to do stuff with my dogs. We do a whole lot of other stuff besides just conformation, so he has other titles behind his name as well. He has some obedience titles, he has rally titles, and what else does he got? We're working on some hunting titles.
Chief Ring Steward Yvonne Norton says the dogs and their owners are all working toward the same goal.
We're looking to win to go on to what we call the group, and then to ultimately best in show. And that's that's the pinnacle of the day, is best in show.
Something new and exciting this year is that the best in show winners for each division receive cash prizes. That's something Peyton Smith is excited about. The 8-year-old junior handler has been competing since she was 4. We were able to talk with her before she went into the ring with her golden retriever Winston. And he isn't the only dog that she shows.
Sometimes I do between golden retrievers and corgis.
There are all shapes and sizes of dogs at Chippewa Park. People are encouraged to bring their own chairs or a blanket and come out and enjoy some fun competition and some extremely cute dogs. It will be here all weekend, running Saturday through Sunday. They're predicting that the last show on Sunday will end around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm Riley McManus, TBT News.